What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 1 of the No Boundaries podcast. And here with my boy Kyrgios and James Frawley. What's going on, lads? How are we doing?
Babs, not too bad, mate. Just, very excited to be on this podcast. I think this is a long time coming. I feel like there's a lot of ideas that are gonna come from this, and I'm excited. What about you, Frawls?
Yeah, thanks, Babs. I think it was Babs' initiative pretty much to start this podcast. It was over a few little sippers at a dinner.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
No, it's good. Excited for it?
100%, mate.
Yeah. It's been a bit of a long time coming, though, in the sense of I feel like I've been talking about this like externally from you guys for a little bit. I just didn't really know how I wanted to like navigate a podcast, but I mean, you were saying too for a while that like this was something that like was kind of like under the wraps, and like no one would have known that this was something you were interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I feel as if with COVID and all that, it kind of put a stop on what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, with travel and stuff. So it's been a good opportunity to spend some time with you guys again. But I think you always had the initiative to be doing something like this, and I feel as if three of us are pretty perfect for it. Three, very different personalities, can be a bit crazy at times, but seen a lot of things. So I feel like we've got a lot to talk about, and I feel like there's no better time than now, before we all kind of go off and do our separate things, but make it one last hurrah on the first episode.
Yeah, I know. I like that. I feel like for me though, what kind of like I started listening to podcasts a while ago. I mean, because they've been around for years, no? Yeah. But I think I was actually here. I don't know if you remember this, James, but I was actually here staying a night a little while ago, and you actually told me about like a tennis podcast. Do you remember that? I'm actually putting you on the spot here, heavy.
I actually can't remember, to be honest.
But I was sitting
someone was doing one, or I asked you to start?
Yeah, you were like, I'll download this podcast on like iTunes, this and that.
Oh, I
and,
can't remember that.
Like, do you remember that?
I think it was a British guy.
Yeah. And you were like, oh, like, dude, he's actually like speaking some good stuff, and like you might find interesting. And I was like, I think that's when for me it sparked like, I mean, you guys know me, like the back of your hands, like, in good and bad ways. But in the sense of like knowing that I like to talk a bit of stuff and put my ideas forward, and in the good sense more than the bad sense. So yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think there's no better time to try and just enjoy a little bit of like conversation and enjoy it for what it is, really.
So I'll pass this one to Kyrgios. Tell us a little bit about our background, Kyrgios, how we met.
Well, we're all pretty close, but it's pretty crazy to see how far we've all come from. Obviously, I've known Frawls now for, as I like to say, I used to hear his baby's cries through the hallways of my house when he was like 6 or 7 years old. So I've known.
Is it actually 6 or 7?
Yeah, about that, 7.
Because I was thinking about that to myself.
Yeah,
I was like, how long is it like? Have we had our friendships gone for? That's something I was thinking about. 6 or 7?
Yeah, it would have been about 7, I reckon, when we first went down to Lynham, and he would have seen me about 20 kilos heavier than I am.
Just standing in the middle, just redirecting.
But Frawls I've known Frawls since 6 or 7, and he's gone from there. We obviously grew pretty much every age group together, playing, training, and then obviously met Babs when we were maybe about 10 or 11.
I think it was 10, yeah. 10 probably, yeah. 10, I think I was 11, you were 10 though, because we were always playing a little bit above. Yeah. Like, you were 10 playing a little bit above your age. Yeah.
And then me and Frawls were like, who is this kid? Who's this fucking psycho? It turns out to be cut from the exact same cloth. But but it's crazy, Frawls has been he's travelled with me, on the professional circuit. We've won a title together, which is crazy to think, he was coaching me that week. And we've had some, some interesting nights as well. So it's fair to say that we've done it all. But yeah, like we've travelled together. All three of us have travelled together and roomed together at some stage around the world, whether it be anywhere really, Europe,
There's an
Asia.
endless amount of stories in that. Like I already just like one.
I know, literally.
And I was like, I better save that for another episode.
No, right. So
some of the stories might have to keep off the podcast. I don't know. What do you reckon?
What, whip a couple of stories straight off the bat?
No, I'm just saying like some of the stories might not be good for the podcast.
Oh no, this is definitely a good one. Like it's definitely, yeah. Oh, I don't know, a little bit, but this one doesn't push any boundaries in that. It's just like one of the normal travel stories and stuff. But yeah, I feel like we share those as we keep these episodes coming for sure.
Now I guess it's just turned into more like a family friendship. I feel like we kind of lean on each other as well when we need.
Definitely.
When we're all going through something, but
definitely.
There's a lot of ideas, and I think if you're listening to this podcast, episode 1, it's worth a fucking listen. Because, you know, like, obviously I feel it kind of goes into, you know, the name. You know, Babs gave us an idea of lists of names that he showed to Frawls and I, and we kind of all agreed on no boundaries, and I think kind of speaks for itself.
It's actually very funny. I genuinely laughed, like, in real life when I sent the list. Maybe it was like 11 names.
Yeah, it was 11.
I kid you not, like 13 seconds later, I just like replied back from Kings to shoot the shot, like, no boundaries. Like, oh, this is a crap. This one's just like unbelievable. But no, I think that really does like speak to our personalities in that regard. Like, you know, we've always spoken about some, you know, controversial stuff at times, and I think there's definitely times for it where you need to be able to have those tough conversations.
Yeah, and then you need someone to pull us back.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll try mediate. I'll try, mediate.
Like, have a bit of perspective, fella.
No, I'm sure you guys get carried away a little bit.
No, I like that, for sure.
Yeah, but what I feel like with no boundaries, I feel like we could get a bit controversial at times.
In the good way, in the good sense. So obviously not about to throw anyone under the bus. No. Oh my God. Bro, like, I'm just saying, like, if you've got a target on your back, bro, you better duck. You're gonna get sniped. But yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna keep it, you know, all relative and whatnot.
That's hilarious, bro. That's so funny.
But we got the little black book in the middle of the table here just to help us out with a few little shenanigans.
What's in the book?
Well,
I just actually want to touch base real quick on Mike. I reckon first for me, like, I think I'm trying to actually pinpoint when I first met you guys. Because I think for me, my first, like, coming out party to, like, Australian tournaments, I was maybe a little bit later than you guys. Like, I was like...
Maybe a little bit.
Like, I know, like, for example, like, Kiggs might have been, like, I don't know, 9, 10, I don't know. How old were you when you started playing, like, tournaments? Because I definitely, we had battles, like, our whole life, but... When we first come across each other?
It feels like a blur now, juniors, I reckon. Like,
it does, doesn't it?
Feels like long ago, but it wasn't even that long ago.
For me, it's the biggest blur because we had so many matches. Like, that's the thing, it's like, I remember the notable matches and, like, the different travel countries that we've gone to and stuff, but, like, all the matches have blended into, like, one whole, just, like, milkshake. And I'm like, what even happened to my childhood? Like, do you know what I mean? Okay, so, but yeah, like, answering my question, and asking my question to you, like, can you remember when we first came across each other?
Us would have been nationals, wouldn't it, Keeks?
Yeah, under 12 nationals.
So Mildura. So that's what I'm thinking, when I played you. That
Was that
would have
the
been the
first
first
time,
time.
though?
I think that's the first time I ever met you.
Maybe, but under
I can't remember any other time.
nationals.
There were no under 12, under 10 events where we travelled into state.
but maybe at like Gosford or something. I might have seen you.
But I never played those.
Oh, yeah,
because
maybe you're right. But was what month was Mildura in the?
April, maybe.
But there's no tournaments before that.
Nothing where like I came out of Victoria. I know that much because my first, like, I was unseeded, done everything. Like,
What about the training camps?
no, bro, I was nobody. I wasn't even ranked.
All I remember was that training camp we did in Canberra. Here, but that was probably later on.
Didn't come.
Didn't come.
When you
I
won
didn't get
that?
invited. I wasn't into that one. Under 12. I was for the Darwin, bro.
Oh, yeah,
We were at Darwin's, bro, like back to backs, bro. Just like hanging on to that because I was like good. I was like, ah! I was like, I don't want to grow up. So yeah, I reckon like we were probably 11 at that stage, and then we had so many meetings after that. Like, I mean, like Albury, you know, nationals, this and that.
Absolute mongrel to play. Don't miss playing. That's for
We
sure.
can save those episodes, you know, those in depth.
Dude, one episode can just be matches.
Yeah, matchups. Nightmare matchups. I like that.
Fuck this court. Do you want to move? Nah.
That's a story.
Me and Babs just like, wait, that court's pretty good.
Shout out Hutch. Appreciate you, baby.
Fuck.
Bro, yeah, I actually raised a glass that, man. Good lad.
I gave me that many codes.
It's actually still working the AOs. Did you know that? Actually, surely you've come across him.
Yeah, I think I saw him. Yeah, yeah. They're just like doing the sign of the cross when they walk past me.
Oh my god. great. That is great.
All right, so what do you guys?
Here we go. Oh, is this pulling us back?
Let's try. Get back on track. Get back on track.
He's like,
So what are we trying to achieve, boys, with this podcast?
do you want to hit that, or do you want me to tackle it?
You can go first. I got some thoughts on it.
All right. Well, I mean, my initial thoughts to that is like, you know, I'd really love to be able to offer some. I mean, even for like people growing up and playing sports and whatnot, whether it be tennis or anything, like, you know, it's a long journey, and like I think we can all kind of share the fact that like being 26, you know, years of age for 27 now.
Yeah.
So 27, 26 each. I mean, like, for me, I started playing tennis like 4 kind of thing. I don't know about you guys, but that's a long journey. So there's a lot of stories on the way. It's not something that happens overnight. I'm sure we can all agree on. And it doesn't even need to be sport. So I'd like people to be able to listen to this and be like, all right, like I love listening to this podcast because I'm able to like get insight into like, you know, how to maybe better tackle my challenges that I face.
Yeah. I feel like we're 3 very relatable people as well.
I agree.
You know, when people listen to this, no matter what stage of life you're in, you can kind of just relate, and if we can help or offer a bit of entertainment, or
Yeah, for sure.
that a little bit better and make you laugh or something, then I feel like
we're all going through things. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're all human beings. We're all flawed. You know, I can definitely raise my hand for that one. I'm number one. but yeah, like, you know, someone who relates to me or whoever it be on you know, on the couch here, you know, I just hope that they can listen and be like, oh, well, I guess like I'm not truly alone in that regard, because I think the world can get pretty lonely at times. And, you know, your immediate people in your life may not actually be the ones to be able to help you in that sense. It needs to be an external source or outside source sometimes.
26, guy's a prophet.
Exactly. That's just off the rip for me, to be honest. So I don't know.
And then, you know, we're going to hope to grab some other people to join us on the podcast, whether it be tennis players, you know, NBA athletes, or, you know, anyone. You know, we will want to probably, you know, aim to interact with fans and stuff too, and listeners to tell us who you guys would like to hear from. And if we're able to contact them, then we'd love to have them on. But I feel like it's just a bit of an everyone podcast, you know. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from or anything. Just, you know, chuck us on and just listen to us just chit chat.
Like that. I actually can't put a hella cool that. That was my first one.
It's pulling us back. I'm just like
no, I like that a lot. I think that's a big one, and it kind of speaks to, you know, our title of the podcast, in the sense of no boundaries. Like, it doesn't even have to be athletes in that sense. Like, people from all walks of life, you know, all careers, anything like that, you know, that can just offer wisdom in their own sense, in their own right. What do you think, Frawls?
Nah, sounds good, bro.
You like that?
Yeah. You guys are onto something there.
I also feel as if like we all tackle, like, say if there's like a thing we talk about, we all have a different view of it as well. So like it's going to be good to see who, you know, people kind of not side with, but agree with more and kind of, you know, relate to more. I feel like if we put a topic like a basket, this could be for an episode, you just put a basket in, just pull in a random topic, and then, you know, you have your initial thoughts on it, and like by the end of it, I could just be like wrestling you on the ground.
Plenty of opportunities.
And Fro's just like, no, I mean, like, stolen keys, bad bit of fuck up, mate. It's always me. But I feel like that'll be more fun episodes where I feel like he's like, Fro's, the way he views things will be more like, you know, what, like complete opposite, and then I could be, you know, siding with him more than like you'll be like back up against me, not pinning you up against the fucking. Yeah, I reckon there'll be a lot of fun, but I don't know. I mean, it's just something new as well. I've never done anything like this where I'm with 2 of probably my closest friends, just being able to talk and have this platform where it can get exciting. I reckon it's going to be mad.
I agree, for
Mad.
sure.
Yeah, well, I think for us, like, when we go out to dinners and have little sippers and stuff like that, like, we have some interesting, in-depth conversations. So, like,
There's been many where, like, for that example, like, we'd probably sit there and be like, fuck, I wish we recorded that.
Literally.
I think that's actually speaking to like why, like we were talking about the other night. We should do a podcast. You know, I know it's something that like maybe I've been saying for a while, and like we've all been thinking in different ways and whatnot. But like we literally said that to each other. It's like
I think the time's right.
for sure.
Time's right.
There's no better time.
The wisdom's in the bottle, boys.
Thanks, fella. Appreciate it. Hospitality's been unreal. Shout out, Camille. What do we think of the next one, bro? What you vibe?
I think it's like, well, what makes this podcast different? I feel like...
Yeah, I like that question.
I think what makes this different is, you know, we've all got a tennis background. As you, Babs, you said, like, we've been knowing nothing really. I mean, we've learnt along the way, but we've really known nothing but tennis for 20 years probably now. Like, you know what I mean? 20 years. And I feel as if the general, you know, the people that listening to this don't, you know, they have an idea of who I am or, you know, how I act or whatever it is. But from my side of things, I feel like I can talk about things with no boundaries. Honestly, like no boundaries came out to me because I feel like that's who I am. You know, I always say things how I feel and how I think they should be said. I don't really, you know, cover anything up. But I think this will be special because there's a lot of things that people want to know, and I feel like, you know, we can uncover a lot of things as well,
agree.
And we can shed some light on, you know, a lot of questions and, you know, a lot of unanswered things that people are wondering.
Yeah, people don't know about you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know, but
for sure.
like for instance, like I've seen a lot of things in the XP locker room. You know?
This time it's everywhere.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I think this is going to be a bit different too. I was telling you before, like it's pretty rare that you have kids at like 14, 15, 16 seeing, you know, we've seen extreme poverty and then we're living in, you know, I feel like none of us take our lives for granted now. Like I've seen you guys, we've all grown up in front of each other and I feel like we're all immature to, like, we're all idiots.
I feel like you've got to be able to
Not take
be
too-
silly in life.
Exactly.
Otherwise, like you're taking yourself too serious, like there's problems.
Yeah.
Problems will arise at some point in your life.
Yeah.
Like for sure, like, you know.
But I feel like our souls are like older because we've seen so much,
Sure.
we've taken in so much. And
We've got a lot of perspective, I reckon. Like,
Definitely. Well, it throws you into that, like kind of like frying pan. Like, you know, like
Exactly.
grow up quick, be able to like travel the world
100%.
yourself at times, get yourself from, I don't know, like Guangzhou in China.
Literally.
Back to Melbourne, and like, you know, you're able to only speak to your parents maybe 2 times for like that journey back. And you got to figure out how you're getting home.
Literally. And
That's tough for a 15-year-old or 16-year-old.
dude, that's what Kobe said in his interview. He said the tennis is like a life lesson. Like you have to have so much independence and responsibility from so young. It's like you learn so many life skills from it. And that's why he loved it. He was like, you're out there on your own. I feel like the perspective of like tennis players, very entitled, very like spoon-fed, but
Like the social view on it.
literally, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit that I feel like it's definitely coming out of, like, I mean, like we can touch on this a little bit. I feel like it's definitely coming out of, well, we're in a phase right now where it's coming out of the white collar kind of like view, where like, you know, now it's people are showing a bit more emotion, like yourself, and you know, there's many other players out there.
Osaka's,
Songa, you know,
yeah.
guys flying around doing different things in a court, in the games. Monfils, you know, and they're showing their emotion more than probably it's ever been. So like, I mean, for me, I love that. I love seeing that. I think that makes the game more enjoyable to watch if we're going to focus in on tennis. Yeah. And I think that only all sports need that more. Yep. Like, you know, I'm sure every athlete would agree that, you know, the more strapped up and less, you know, freedom for people to move in is just going to make it less entertaining.
for sure. I mean, speaking with Kyrgios though, like, that's always something that, you know, he's never really changed in that sense. Like, if you watch him 14s nationals in Mildura, I mean, he's still bringing the same antics to the court, you know?
Literally.
That's on you.
I'll put it in. You're going to put that in sometime. Can't even see.
Fuck my dumplings. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, like I think that's something that people don't know about you. Like, I mean, if they had seen you at 14 internationals, they'd think, you know, this is exactly the same antics going on out here on the court.
100%. Yeah.
And I feel like the guys that like know us best on, you know, in terms of like from Australian tennis or overseas even,
None of us.
they're all gonna know that like they're gonna see this, but these clowns haven't changed one bit. I mean, like,
Literally.
but I'll actually like I'd love to hear that. Yeah. Like, I'd love to see that in the comments, be like, oh,
Everyone
bro, like
knows
this
that.
person said this, and it's like we're pretty close to that person, you know.
Yeah. But that's why I think it's different because
We have a real crack at something extremely different to most podcasts out there. I think in that sense, not trying to like label anyone, but.
well, especially Australian podcasts, because Australian sports in general, like they're pretty Australian, as in like they don't travel overseas much, they don't see different cultures, they don't meet that many new people. But like we've seen more than what the average human was seeing in an entire lifetime times 10. Do you know what I mean? We covered that in 5 years of our life, and it's a lot to take in. I feel like, dude, there's so many like things I could touch on with like mental illness and all this type of stuff. Like with like it's a lot to take. It's a lot for like a young kid at like 17, 18, 19 to go through while you're actually just trying to live a normal life and be normal.
But the biggest thing is alone too. Like you got to
Exactly.
have your family with you. You got to coach who you may or may not be able to like actually like, you know, enjoy their company in that sense.
Yeah.
Like too, you know. So I don't
I
know.
don't know, I feel like tennis players get a bit of a hard rap with that, I feel, especially Australian tennis players too. Like it's another thing we can touch on with the travel. Like, you know, we're on the road for extensive periods of time where, you know, European tennis players or American tennis players can always go home every couple of weeks. And, you know, Australian tennis players got to tough it out. And we could just, there's so many things we need to touch on. It's getting me a little excited, bro. Oh, shit, we're going to make some fucking coin.
Oh man, no, yeah, I agree, big time. I feel like you said that pretty much. Like 10 out of 10. There's not really much more you can add to that in the sense of, man, I feel like people are really going to see a different perspective on like take it and view this different perspective, and be like kind of blown away in the sense of like, wow, like I really had like, for example, someone like you completely pegged wrong, or you know, changing people's minds and being like, wow, like this or this on that said person, you know.
Yeah.
Like it might not even be about you, because we're bringing people on from all walks of life, right?
Yep.
You know, or respecting different views on you know, different things happening in life. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, not really much more can be added to that. I think that's pretty well said.
For sure.
I mean, for me personally.
But like, for instance, if I didn't know you guys, right? Like if I didn't know you guys and I didn't know your background and stuff, but then you like openly came to me and said, look, like I'm 26, 27, I was a tennis player, like I traveled to these places. Like I would genuinely sit down and pick your brains for hours. Do you know what I mean? Like if I didn't know you and you just told me where you'd been, what you'd gone through, I'd be like, wow, that's insane.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So like the general person listening, like have to like really stress this, like these guys have literally been to all, like dude, you've been to fucking Turkey, to Egypt, to like places that like people like just dream of going, and you've seen what it's like there. Do you know what I mean?
So you see different reviews.
And it's like if we have these guest speakers coming on, like if like a listener just takes on one thing that they like go home with them and then they live by, and it gets them out of like struggles or, you know, overcome something. If they hang on to that, then that's a success in my eyes. That's, you know what I mean?
Right. As long as I think like as long as it's opening up people's perspectives to them, then that's a success.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like Seaspiracy,
I'm sure.
debunked.
Yeah. Well, that's been debunked.
Alright, fuck the dumplings, bro.
No, but I think like we got our perspective, and I'm sure people that, you know, come on will give us more perspective too. Because I mean, like we've seen a lot of tennis courts nowadays.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think that's
Like the way we travelled it's unusual in some ways. You know what I mean? Like
Jeju.
a lot of
nothing's
lot of
normal
hotels,
about it.
a lot of tennis courts.
Nothing's
and
normal about it. And like we'll break into for sure what it's like to like whether or not you're at the top or the bottom. For sure. It's the same in the sense of the time you're spending, you know, to fill in the day. Like like the top players are going to train more because they're more professional, period, right? But at the end of the day, like you're gonna be spending, and I'm sure you can agree on this right now, like in the sense of you're gonna be spending bulk time in your hotel room. Like,
dude,
unfortunately, it's just the
100%.
reality of it, and I feel like people don't really understand.
That's another side. You can talk. I feel like
I mean, that'll be an episode.
definitely.
Like,
I think it's a
Hotel
glamorous thing.
Chiller.
It's not.
Like episode name, like Hotel Chilling.
It's not. Yeah.
And I think we want to add some stuff to it. Well, yeah, but I think we want to open it up to also the viewers as well. Like they got to give some input on what they want to see, like from us. So I mean, if they want to comment, of course, or send us DMs on Instagram, whatever.
Well, we had a good idea for what we were all kind of agreeing on, like in terms of like putting it out there on like social medias, and having everyone kind of be like, all right, like ask us a set of questions. We'll pick out a few, like each episode and stuff, as we lock down like a kind of schedule for it. But each session is gonna, obviously have like a couple of questions that each of us can like pick out on that and expand on. And I mean, like just basing off of like how we've just I think we've only spoken about 3 questions, for example. Yeah. And I look at how much we've already like spoken about. So I think we can all agree that, we're not going to really struggle to push those questions as far as we can push them in that sense. Bro, I'm going to leave it to you to pick another question here, big fella. No, there's a couple there, big fella.
What's the content of the podcast? What can listeners expect to hear?
That's a good one. I like that. Do you want to dabble on it, or do you want me to, Nick?
We can talk about like the actual no boundaries. Like you kind of came up to it, but like it's in a sense, no boundaries means I feel like we don't kind of judge or really give negative feedback to anyone's kind of opinion. Like we hear it, like we hear it whether it's a viewer, a listener, us. Like we hear it, we discuss it. We may not agree, but. No boundaries in like I don't think there's like an ideal person for this podcast. Like everyone's accepted. And I feel like no boundaries. Obviously, we can't get too controversial because. Sure, I mean reality. But I think
I'm sure Babs are doing a lot of editing there.
But I think what makes why this will be a little different, is because I feel like we can't. Everything in life, I feel like you can't just hold back. Like I feel like we're gonna say what we think. I know we're gonna cut most of it. Sure. You know what I mean? But like, part of I feel like no boundaries. There's got to be some strong like. I'm not gonna back down in some sense of some things. You know what I mean? And like, if we're on the fucking news, I don't get fucked.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think touching on that in the sense of like. I think we will be speaking up on things that need to be, addressed, and we're not going to be afraid to address them, even if they are like, skirting.
A little bit, yeah.
But obviously,
I'll be dolphin diving over the line.
We've been doing that since day one, though. Like, I mean, anyone that knows you and I in that regard.
Yeah, I guess like we'll speak about sport a lot. I mean, obviously, a lot of people want to know Kyrgios behind the scenes, what he was like as a junior. I mean, to be honest, I still see him as that 12-year-old kid. Like,
yeah, we actually touched on that earlier. We were talking about
no different to me. And then obviously, like, we're deep thinkers as well, like all 3 of us. Yeah. So we like to speak about lots of different things. I don't know, whether it's global warming or
anything.
What some athlete did in the media or whatever.
Choices, sports, dietary choices, environment. Yeah. But like these are all things that like I feel like, for example, like even stuff like. The environment, like, to touch on that slightly, it's like, I feel like people shouldn't be so afraid to talk about these things.
100%.
Like, just because, like, you're going to sound like voodoo in a sense, like, just, it needs to be addressed in some way, shape or form, and, like, no boundaries in that sense of, like, we're not really going to be afraid to, like, talk about those things, even if it, like, gets viewed in a certain light. Like, we're obviously going to be respectful. Yep. We are who we are, and we all, know who are closest to us, and we don't want to, like, say, throw people on the bus in that sense. But
well, I think I spoke to you the other day. Like, I feel like you just said it then. People kind of, like, tiptoe around things a little bit, but, like, that's not... It went back to, I think it was on the mental illness thing. Like, people these days, because it was the Osaka thing at at the French Open when she pulled out for mental illness, and I feel like just in general, social media and stuff, it's made hard for general people these days genuinely feel like scared to come out and say, I'm actually struggling mentally. Like they're afraid to go to their friends or their parents because they think they're weak or something, Sure. But like, I feel like we've all kind of been through some pretty rough places where we were struggling, and we knew that. We were like, hey, like, what's wrong? Type thing. But even darker than that, but like, that's what I think. Like, we got to just like take stones of where things like people trying to like hide behind, just like, and make people like, it's okay to come out and talk about things, feel comfortable. I feel like we can talk about a lot of personal experiences to maybe give people confidence to come out and be like, well, I'm actually struggling mentally. I went through that similar thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I like that. I do agree, heavy.
So.
I like that a lot. Seem to like that as a society in the sense of like, all right, like let's not go too deep in this because this is a podcast and episode in itself.
Yeah. We'll do this. The next one should just be fucking smack bang social media.
I agree.
Social
It's a
media
problem.
is-
But what?
Social media.
But like to touch on what you were saying in the sense of like, I don't know why we as a society like to, put out like we're so happy and we live this life.
That's
when in
what
reality we
matters
sit at home and we actually are so unhappy.
Anxious,
with everything going around
yeah.
us. But like we don't change that. Like we keep going and pushing that energy more. And it's like,
I reckon we've come in a funny time as well. Like
That's what I said.
We never
Remember what I
had
said?
like, social media.
yeah, but we never had these problems and we never spoke about these issues.
I mean, we were young too, but like it's tough
I
to
spoke to
gauge.
him about it. Like our generation we didn't have social media when we were like young. And now we've
we're in
kind of
between
we're in between, you know, the people who didn't have it and now the people who are just used to
No,
it.
but yeah, I think we've all pretty much like nailed that on the head. Like best.
100%.
Like, we'll save that for another topic. Another
Yeah,
episode.
we live in a time where people in the moment would rather take photos and videos of the actual moment and remember it the next day than actually rather enjoying it and actually getting the most out of it in the moment. But then just looking back at it in like 2 days time, so I was there. Do you know what I mean?
What about like the sense of like, you're doing all those things, right? But like, what about like you're not doing enough of it either? Like, I feel like people complain about that too. Like it's like, you're not like you could be really happy with everything, and you're
100%.
just not putting it on social media. But like people will be like, why are you not posting it? Like,
100%.
what's going on? Is something wrong?
Yeah.
It's like we'll dive in that. Oh, Jesus.
Do you think there'll be a time where it's popular to not have social media? Like
I hope we live in a time when it is.
do you think it'll start to become popular for people to just delete?
Well, no,
social
because humans abuse everything, bro. Like they just they blow. Like, look, as a business tool, social media is awesome, and like you can like look at your favorite athletes or favorite spokespeople or anyone and just like relate to them. You can be like, oh, wow, that's what they exactly. Like it gives you like it almost makes you feel like they're your friend. Do you know what I mean? You can see what they're doing in their off time, like what dogs they have or something. That's mad.
Yeah, for sure.
But then when like you look at all like another topic, like all the hate and shit that like say anyone gets on their social media posts, like they might not be taking it in, but subconsciously they're saying it, and then that it it spirals out of control.
100%.
Gives everyone a platform too.
I agree.
I mean, it's not even for like famous athletes.
Anyone, you know what I mean?
Looking and saying, I'm not
Or,
enough,
I'm not
or
enough.
whatever.
Bro.
But anyway, we'll probably get
Yes.
too deep into this.
We're going deep. We're diving deep. So
Anyway, I feel like wrapping it up. Yeah. But like I feel like that's what our podcast will be. I feel like we've said a lot of good stuff. It's been driven, I think, without Babs, this wouldn't have gone into sort of. I think you put the wheels in motion. He's the bones of the
He was at
bones
the,
of the body.
mic shop this morning. Creating
Yeah,
fucking
he was
scene.
pushing
But anyway,
us.
that's an episode.
But like I feel like without Babs' drive,
In reality though, like we're all here. Like I feel like not even just to say like I'm the bone. Like we're all the bones in that sense. Like we're all offering different perspectives and views, and we're all going to be supporting the podcast in a different way. So,
But in saying that, I mean, Keeks didn't sacrifice our lives with blowing a tyre on the way to get here, you know what I mean?
Sure.
For the
Sure,
potty.
sure.
But
sure, no.
guy wants me to drive out Eagle. Man, I'm getting dinner.
sleep in your car.
I didn't say what.
Nah, man. No, I'm just excited. I'm honestly more than anything, I'm just excited because like I feel like we already have these conversations. Yeah. Now we just have like another reason to actually push more of them, which is in reality just means like we even connect more on a deeper level. Yep. Not even sure if it's possible for us to actually connect on a deeper level, but like more frequently maybe. Like that might be the check-in of like everything's going good, like further than just like our 55 FaceTimes a week already.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like maybe it just adds a bit of substance to our FaceTimes, and now we're actually recording them. Well, guys, that is a wrap for our episode 1 right here. None other with the man himself, Nick Kyrgios, and my boy James Frawley. It's been a pleasure doing it with you guys on F1, and I mean, who knows how far we actually push it, but let's just enjoy the ride and enjoy each episode as much as we can, really, and just really touch on what we feel like want to be touched on in the sense of what's important to us.
Definitely. And if you guys can come along for the journey with us and relate and enjoy it, then that's what we're going to hope for. And Frawls?
Yeah, that's it, boys. I'm looking forward to the dumplings now, so let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I like that. Just hope that everyone, that watches the podcast enjoys it. If there's anything that you guys want to see from the podcast, don't forget to put it in the comments. Make sure you're subbed and followed on all that kind of good stuff, and we'll keep you updated as much as we can. Peace.